discovered. Just hours after his passing, he exposed a hidden truth that changed everything. Amidst the shadows of the small-town garage, a storm brewed within Lily Owens as she listened to her father's friends pay their last respects. Henry Owens, the local mechanic, had died unexpectedly, leaving an emptiness that seemed to swallow everything whole. The muffled sobs and trembling hands only amplified the reality. He was gone. Each whispered word echoed in her mind, questioning whether they ever truly knew the man. She clutched her father's worn leather jacket, the scent of grease and faded memories swirling around her, as if his essence still lingered. Homespun anxieties tugged at her heart. How could she face the world without her father's steady guidance? Lily had dreams, visions of bustling cities and expansive horizons where her potential could flourish. But now, the fabric of her aspirations frayed at the edges. She glanced at Josh, her brother, whose vacant stare matched her own internal dread. Their family name, once a banner of pride, was now wrapped in grief and overshadowed by looming bills. The pressure of a lifetime of dreams weighed heavily on her shoulders, and she felt lost in that burden. Amidst this turmoil, a flicker of hope ignited when she stumbled upon an old, dusty box in the attic. Curiosity urged her to sift through the fragile letters and yellowed blueprints, diving into the cryptic remnants of her father's life. The words revealed a hidden genius, a skilled inventor always overlooked. Anguish gripped her. Henry had designed revolutionary automotive technologies, innovations that had been stolen by a man named Charles Manning, claiming them as his own. The realization washed over her like ice water. The family's struggles weren't just due to fate. They were rooted in betrayal. The air thickened with dread as she toyed with the notion of confronting Charles. The face of a man who had amassed wealth while cloaked in deceit stared back at her. Would she dare stand up to him? Fear danced in her stomach. Failure loomed close, whispering that she was a girl from a small-town mechanic's family, outmatched and unseen. Yet, a paradox tugged at her consciousness. If they remained silent, would her father's light flicker and fade into obscurity, never achieving the recognition he deserved? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each revelation felt like a weight pressing down, forcing her to sit in a puddle of haunting thoughts. How could she, a teenager, compete against a titan fortified by manipulation and greed? The blueprints offered a glimpse of salvation, yet the path forward felt treacherous. Her pulse quickened as she contemplated the leap into the battle. Betrayal pulsated through her veins, an agonizing reminder of what was at stake. Family legacy, justice, and the hope of bringing honor back to her father's name. With each letter that she read, doubt twisted into determination. As she fingered the faded ink, a profound responsibility settled upon her. Josh approached, his expression uncertain but supportive. They were no longer just siblings in grief. They were co-conspirators in a quest for truth. But as they faced the impending confrontation, a new dread chilled Lily. What if they failed? What if the journey exposed more than just their father's truths, with consequences they weren't ready to confront? As the day turned into night, shadows grew long, and the attic felt suffocating. Clutching the letters, reality crashed in waves. Would they escape the shadows of someone else's ambition and reclaim their father's brilliance, or remain shackled by the weight of betrayal? Desperate for clarity, she steeled herself, caught in an intricate web of emotions and expectations, teetering on the edge of something monumental. The morning light filtered through the attic's grimy window, casting thin rays across the dust motes dancing in the air. Lily stirred as the weight of the previous day's revelations crashed down on her anew. Today was the day. The day she would confront Charles Manning. She rose, determination settling around her like armor, bolstered by the essence of her father's legacy. Each step towards the garage echoed the rhythm of her spinning thoughts. Could she really challenge a man who had paraded her father's brainchildren as his own? Self-doubt threatened to infiltrate her resolve, but she inhaled deeply, reminding herself that this was no longer just about her. This was a fight for truth, justice, and recognition for Henry Owens. "Lily!" Josh's quiet voice called from behind her, snapping her back into the present. He stepped into the garage, his brow furrowed with concern. "Are you sure about this?" Lily turned to him, her jaw tightening. "We can't let him get away with it, Josh. If we do nothing, Dad's work disappears. His genius deserves to be known." She brushed her fingers across a small oil-stained toolbox, a fragment of her father's daily life. He had no idea those designs were stolen. "Should we even be going down this road?" "Why not?" Her reply was laced with fire. "Don't you want to bring his story to light? We're already dealing with a monumental loss. We can't lose his legacy, too." Josh hesitated, searching her eyes as if trying to unearth hidden motives, then finally nodded. "Okay, let's do this. Together." With a deep breath, they stepped out into the morning chill, purpose fueling their stride. As they approached the heart of town, thoughts cascaded through Lily's mind. Tactical maneuvers she could employ, possible legal channels, and the memories of nights spent alongside her father, who had crafted not just machines, but dreams. Memories that now felt distant, like echoes from another time. Each footfall resonated, a reminder of the stakes involved. The conversation with Charles would not be a mere exchange. It was a confrontation, a gauntlet thrown at the face of deceit. Just as they reached the edge of the sprawling auto repair shop that once buzzed with energy and possibility, a shiver curled up her spine. She caught sight of the all-too-familiar logo adorning the entrance, Manning's Innovations, a brand built on the ashes of her father's integrity. Standing before the glass door, her own reflection stared back, a blend of resolve and terror. The image of the confident woman she aspired to be felt so distant from the girl she had been just days ago. Today, she would not just reclaim her father's legacy. She would discover her own identity through this reckoning. But what if she was indeed just a girl, outmatched in every conceivable way? "Are we ready?" Josh's voice pulled her from the inner turmoil, grounding her with its calmness. With a nod, Lily inhaled deeply one final time, steeling herself. They advanced, and as the door swung open, its bell chimed a warning. The interior was bright, filled with the sounds of tools clanging and engines revving. Charles stood there, a figure exuding confidence, entirely unaware of the storm about to unfold. Lily's heart raced as she approached him. For now it was about controlling her voice, wielding her father's words like weapons. But before she could utter the first syllable, a flicker of recognition crossed his face, followed by a cocky smile that made her stomach churn with indignation. "What brings you here? My favorite mechanics kits?" Each word dripped with condescension, but Lily, emboldened by newly discovered ferocity, met his gaze and inhaled her father's spirit. "We need to talk, Charles. About your theft." The moment hung thick with tension as the suffocating weight of betrayal loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Would she find the strength to face him? Or would she buckle under pressure, just as she feared? The confrontation had begun. In the midst of this turmoil, however, a small voice in her head whispered, "There is more to discover about both her father and herself than she ever anticipated." What hidden truths waited just below the surface? The audible clanging of tools and the faint hum of engines faded into a muffled background as Lily stood in front of Charles, her heart thrumming painfully in her chest. His bemused look, the very essence of belittlement, ignited a fire within her. This moment was not just pivotal. It held the weight of legacy and the determination to transcend limitation. Your favoritism won't shield you from accountability, Charles, Lily declared, her voice steadier than she felt. Inside, however, a storm raged. Every doubt from the past week clawed at her confidence. Could she really unearth the truth she sought? Each breath deepened her resolve, transforming the swirling confusion into a sharp focus. This was her bid for justice, not only for her father, but for her own self-worth. Charles leaned casually against a workbench, arms crossed, a smirk lingering on his lips. Is that so? You think you've come here to lecture me about integrity? His derision sliced through her. With her pulse quickening, she stood tall. It's not integrity I want to discuss. It's the patents you claimed as yours. The very ones that should have belonged to my father. The words left her mouth with more strength than she intended. Yet in the fury of her assertion, something shifted within her. How poetic, he replied, feigning a yawn. But the world doesn't care who designed what. It's about who makes it happen. Have you even considered what happens next? What do you know of patents and legalities? His words dripped with patronization, questioning her very knowledge of the situation. Frustration surged, but rather than faltering, a new layer of resolve emerged. She had spent the last few days immersed in her father's work, studying the designs and tracing the thefts that had ransacked their home and his legacy. I've done my research, she replied, her voice now a mix of vulnerability and strength. I'm not here to play games. You've taken what isn't yours, and I'm prepared to fight for what's right. As she spoke, the memory of her father's hands guiding her through intricate blueprints flooded back. Each lesson he imparted echoed in her mind, fueling her resolve. Josh's presence beside her steadied her, and the small touch of his hand gave her courage. If things turned confrontational, she had someone who believed in her. Her father had nurtured not just her skills, but also her desire for justice, and that legacy was what drove her now. Charles's expression shifted ever so slightly, something akin to annoyance flickering beneath his facade. For the first time, she sensed uncertainty twist through him. She had struck a nerve, and it invigorated her. You want to fight? Fine. But I doubt you'll win against a corporation like mine. His tone hardened, revealing the man behind the mask. At that moment, a realization crystallized within her. This struggle wasn't merely about legalities and patents. It was intertwined with her evolution. Today would not define just her father's legacy, but the woman she was becoming. Someone who would no longer cower before injustice. Maybe I won't win right away, she replied, the fire in her words racing forth. But I won't back down. I'm my father's daughter, and I hold the skills to ensure he's heard. You think I'm a child? I'm here to reclaim what you've stolen, for him and for me. The air thickened, charged with anticipation as Charles's eyes darkened with realization. A shift had occurred, not just in the space between them, but within her. This was her moment of transformation, and just like that, she understood more about her own strength. This fight was not just a battle against a thief. It was a journey into the very core of who she was meant to become. As silence settled, each second stretching like an eternity, she knew she needed a plan. One that would fuse her father's genius with her newfound tenacity. Let's see how far you're willing to go, he said finally, his tone less playful and more guarded, hinting at a depth she had yet to uncover. But what would she discover if she delved deeper into the wounded truths of her father's legacy? And how would she balance the personal costs with her ambitions as they faced the inevitable legal battle ahead? Lily felt the electricity lingering in the air, a palpable consequence of her boldness in confronting Charles. Each quiet heartbeat drummed a message in her mind. This was not just a fight for validation. It was a pivotal moment of transformation where she could redefine her identity. The uncertainty that had once suffocated her now became the soil in which her ambition could take root. Turning from Charles, she focused on the task ahead, formulating a plan in her mind. She understood now that knowledge was her greatest weapon. Those few days of poring over her father's designs and patents had illuminated much more than technical details. They revealed the depth of her father's genius and his unfinished legacy. She intended to carry that torch and light her path forward. "Come on," Josh urged gently, snapping her back to the present. "We need to get to the archives. You've got papers to find." "Right," she replied, her determination coalescing into a single thought. She needed evidence, and she wouldn't settle for anything less than mastery over the details. Their footsteps echoed in the dimly lit hallway as they made their way to the company's archives, a labyrinth of rows stacked with old designs, documentation, and the remnants of her father's contributions. A flicker of doubt threatened to creep into her mind. Was she truly prepared for the task ahead? But the memory of Charles's condescending smirk ignited her resolve. Lily inhaled deeply, letting the familiar scent of paper and ink ground her. The archives were an intricate puzzle, but she had her father's intuition to guide her. She spent hours digging through old project files, absorbing each page like a sponge. There was something oddly soothing about the process. In this space lined with her father's work, she felt an undeniable connection. His passion spoke to her, each blueprint a whisper of inspiration. As she sifted through a bin labeled Unfinished Projects, a particular folder caught her eye. The cover was worn, but the unmistakable scroll of her father's handwriting leaped out at her. This was not just a patent. It was a prototype he had designed just before everything had unraveled. Lily's heart raced as she carefully opened the folder. Intricate sketches lay inside, accompanied by meticulous notes detailing the functionality and potential market applications. Her pulse quickened as she recognized a deeply innovative approach to a problem that plagued the industry, an idea that could significantly shift the balance of power in this realm. The realization was staggering. Charles did not just steal her father's legacy. He had also buried the very innovations that could have propelled the company into a new era. "Lily." Josh's voice broke through her focused trance. "This stuff is gold. You know it, right?" "Yeah," she breathed, a whirl of excitement mixing with concern. The weight of that truth sank in deeper. Not only could she reclaim her father's work, but she could also expose Charles for the fraud he was. Yet a dark thought lurked in the corner of her mind. If this information was so powerful, it could drive Charles to desperate measures. She would need allies, perhaps even leverage. "I need to compile these findings into a comprehensive report," she said, her voice steady and determined. "This evidence will be the foundation of our legal case, but I need to be careful. We can't let Charles discover our strategy too soon." "Let's get to it then," Josh replied, his eyes glinting with enthusiasm. They worked late into the night. Each keystroke and each page of documentation felt like a small victory in reclaiming the narrative of her father's life and work. Each passing hour reaffirmed her determination and her growing confidence. The woman she had been burdened by doubt was slowly transforming into a strategist in her own right. But as she finished compiling the report, a creeping apprehension set in. How far was she willing to go? With the stakes so high, would she risk everything on a legal battle? In the shadows of her thoughts, she could almost hear Charles's taunting words echoing. What would you do if you couldn't win? Perhaps it was time to face that question head-on before making any irrevocable decisions. As she shut down her computer, one thing became glaringly clear. Bending the rules might give her the edge she needed. But what line was she willing to cross? Tomorrow would not only unveil her plan, It would compel her to confront the moral complexities of justice and ambition. Would she dare to play Charles's game? And in doing so, what parts of herself would she uncover along the way? Lily awoke to a new day filled with the weight of a decision she had not anticipated. The sunlight filtered through her window, casting patterns on her walls, but its beauty felt distant. Instead, her thoughts spiraled into the realm of uncertainty and fear. She took a deep breath, steadying herself for the trials ahead. The morning felt heavy, laden with thoughts about her father's legacy and the threatening presence of Charles. In the crisp air outside, she sensed a shift. It was a reminder that she needed to move forward, both in her professional endeavors and her journey of self-discovery. After a quick breakfast, she gathered her report and notes, making sure they were organized and precise. The task ahead was daunting, but she had uncovered a golden opportunity hidden in those forgotten files. Still, a gnawing doubt shadowed her determination. What if she unleashed something darker in her quest for justice? The drive to the office was filled with introspection. Each block intensified the conflict in her mind. This confrontation was more than a battle with Charles. It was a confrontation with her own desire for power, autonomy, and righteousness. Could she justify the lengths she was willing to go to reclaim what was taken from her father? Upon arriving, the atmosphere in the office felt charged, as if her colleagues sensed the imminent unrest. She exchanged quick glances with Josh, who had been her steadfast ally through the storm. They began brainstorming strategies, refining the report, but the looming presence of Charles darkened her thoughts. "Lily, are you ready for this?" Josh asked, concern etched on his face. "If you decide to take this to HR or legal, it won't just be a matter of documents. Charles won't let go easily." "I know," she replied, a new steel creeping into her voice. "That's why I must be prepared for anything." With each careful word, she leaned into her growing assertiveness. This was not just a battle for her father's legacy. It was her identity at stake. The girl who hesitated, who sought approval and validation, was becoming a leader who demanded respect. As they prepared to present their findings, adrenaline coursed through her veins. She could feel her heart racing as the thought of confrontation loomed fresh and potent. Was she ready to unveil the report? What if, in doing so, she faced Charles's wrath head-on? These thoughts wrestled within her, fueling what lay ahead. At the meeting room door, she hesitated for a brief moment. This was a defining moment, and she understood, with unsettling clarity, that her past fears could either ground her or propel her toward liberation. If she opened this door, there was no turning back. "Let's do this," she declared, pushing the door open with confidence she hadn't felt before. The conference table was set with her fears and aspirations laid bare, ready for judgment. Charles sat confidently at the head, an imperious look on his face. The anticipation in the room was palpable as Lily stood at the forefront, report in hand, ready to confront the very man who had cast shadows over her father's legacy. "I have something to present," Lily began, her voice cutting through the tension, each word imbued with the potential to transform her life. Before she could delve deeper, a ringing phone interrupted, and Charles's face shifted into a mask of irritation. "Can't this wait?" he snapped, his outward confidence cracking for just a fleeting moment. "No, it can't," Lily pressed on, shaking off the disruption. This was her moment, yet an uneasiness gripped her. What unforeseen obstacles would arise? In this tight room, her professional facade began to crack as she recognized the power struggle unfolding. Would her voice resonate, or would she fall back into the shadows? As she laid the foundation of her argument, every word felt like a step toward her autonomy or a plunge into deeper chaos. She could already sense the tension thickening like a charged electricity. With a final, defiant breath, she realized it was time to gamble everything. not only for her father's legacy, but for her own future. Would she emerge victorious? Or would she discover that the price of her boldness was greater than she had ever imagined? The meeting was unfolding, but beneath it simmered an invisible war. And just as she prepared to launch into her findings, something unexpected crackled in the air. An unexpected interruption or interjection that could alter everything she had painstakingly planned. Could she anticipate the outcome? Or was she about to plunge into a confrontation that would change everything? The moment of truth rapidly approached. The moment was fraught with tension, each second feeling like an eternity. Lily took a steadying breath, feeling the weight of the report in her hands like an anchor against the tumultuous waves of uncertainty. Charles waved dismissively at the phone, a clear indication of his irritation. "I have more pressing matters," he grumbled, but there was a hint of disquiet lurking beneath his arrogance. With a flicker of her heart racing, Lily pressed on. "I have evidence regarding the discrepancies in our financial reports. Evidence that implicates you directly." Each word spit out like a firecracker, her own voice surprising her with its intensity. The room fell silent, her colleagues exchanging unsure glances. Charles's face morphed from irritation into something akin to fury, his presiding confidence seemingly shaken. "Evidence?" he scoffed. "What evidence could you possibly have that could sway anyone here against me?" Lily's resolve hardened. "The documents I referenced earlier detail not only inflated figures, but also unauthorized transactions. This isn't just about the numbers. It's about the integrity of our operations and my father's legacy hanging in the balance." The stakes had soared beyond a mere workplace dispute. Her words now carried the weight of moral righteousness and personal vendetta. She felt the shift in the atmosphere, a heightened sense of self dawning within her. She was here to reclaim not just her father's name, but also her sense of self-worth. She pressed the printed report toward the center of the table, her fingers lingering over the evidence. "I'm proposing we take this to HR, to ensure this matter is resolved transparently. I believe we owe it to everyone who trusts this company." Charles leaned forward, his voice low but dangerous. "You think you're the hero here? What you're doing could ruin careers, yours included." The threat lingered in the air, cutting through the electric atmosphere like a knife. Lily's pulse quickened. This was the crux of her dilemma. To expose the truth meant risking everything she had worked for. Her position, her reputation. What if she became the pariah in an effort to uphold her ethics? Yet was it her ethics or her ambition that compelled her now? The dark undercurrents of self-reflection washed over her. "I'm willing to take that risk," she said, her voice a steady heartbeat amidst the chaos. "If I don't stand up against you now, who will? How many others will fall victim to your deception?" Her challenge hung in the air, a potent mix of fear and resolve. She could see the flicker of doubt clouding Charles's eyes, and for a moment, the balance of power felt shifting. But before he could respond with a counterattack, another interjection caught them all off guard. A woman from HR, whom Lily had expected to remain a silent observer, cleared her throat. "I think it's time we addressed these findings formally, Charles. The organization has a responsibility to uphold ethics, and if there's evidence, we cannot ignore it." The room collectively shifted, and the tide seemed to turn. Hope surged within Lily, but it was immediately followed by a fresh wave of dread. Was this the validation she craved, or merely a trap masked in procedural decorum? As discussions unfolded about scheduling further meetings and investigations, the adrenaline gushing through her veins morphed into anxiety about the ripple effects. If she succeeded, she would have to live with the consequences, an unresolved tapestry of reconciliation and conflict. And within that rapid back and forth, Lily felt the echo of her father's legacy, urging her onward, illuminating a path she had not fully embraced before. But just as she began to feel the stirrings of triumph, Charles spoke again, his voice a low hiss. "You think you've won, Lily? This is far from over." In that moment, realization dawned on her. She had initiated a battle, but the war was only beginning. The stakes were no longer just about the report. They were about proving her capabilities against a man who thrived on intimidation. As she left the meeting room, shaking with adrenaline and uncertainty, a thought began to crystallize. The fight for her father's legacy could reforge her own identity if she played her cards right. But what further shadowy tactics would Charles deploy? Emboldened yet aware of the lurking dangers, she whispered to herself, "What's next?" The real confrontation with Charles had only begun. And as night approached, she knew that every choice she made from here on would resonate through the lives of many, hers included. Lily stepped out of the conference room, the weight of the unfolding confrontation pressing down on her shoulders like a boulder. The murmurs of her colleagues faded as she crossed the empty hallway, her mind racing through the implications of what had just occurred. Each step felt heavy, filled with anticipation and dread. She arrived at her desk, the cluttered surface a stark contrast to the clarity she craved. Papers scattered, a coffee cup half full, her laptop buzzing with unopened emails. It was all a reminder of the chaos surrounding her. She sank into her chair, trying to steady her breath as the adrenaline faded, leaving a cocktail of emotions swirling in its wake. Exhilaration, fear, and a burgeoning resolve. Lily's fingers hovered over her keyboard, and she paused to collect her thoughts. The meeting had shifted the momentum, but she was acutely aware that she now stood on the precipice of something monumental. Could she maintain this momentum? Could she use the power she had found to navigate the storm ahead? With a deep breath, she opened a new document and titled it, Strategy. There was strength in organization, in knowing her next steps. She listed her goals: compile all evidence, study company ethics policies, and prepare for potential backlash. Each bullet point felt like armor she could don in anticipation of battle. The thought of Charles loomed large in her mind. He was not just her colleague. He was a formidable adversary, steeped in the playbook of manipulation and intimidation. How far was he willing to go to protect himself? She remembered the tremor of uncertainty in his voice. Perhaps the threat of exposure had shaken him more than he let on. But what if he came out swinging? Would her resolve hold firm against his inevitable retaliation? As she mentally plotted her course, a sudden realization unfurled before her. This wasn't just a fight against Charles. It was a fight for her own evolution. Standing up for what was right was opening doors to an identity she'd been timid to claim. She wasn't merely her father's daughter. She was capable, and she was beginning to see her potential come to life. She grabbed her phone and glanced at her reflection in the screen. There was something different about the girl staring back at her. Something braver. Taking a quick moment, she sent a message to her mentor, an analytical figure she respected deeply, seeking guidance and support. "Can we meet?" she typed. "I need your insights on corporate ethics and handling internal conflict." The message sent. Her heart raced again, but this time it was with purpose. As she waited for a response, she recalled her father's stories of battles fought not just for justice, but for the integrity of the business they both loved. Each story had been laced with lessons of resilience, of courage in the face of adversity. In their quiet moments together, he had instilled in her as much a sense of rightness as a sense of agency. That agency was what she sought now. Lily felt the fire of potential ignite within her. She was no longer a passive participant in this corporate saga. She could direct the narrative. She would delve deeper, prepare herself for any counterplots, and be the architect of her path. Just then, her phone pinged. A response from her mentor. "Absolutely, but know this. Corporate battles often reveal unexpected allies and enemies. Be prepared to face not just Charles, but others who may show their true colors." Her heartbeat quickened again, fear mingling with thrilling anticipation. Charles was only the beginning. The true test lay ahead. It wasn't just evidence she needed. It was strategy and unyielding strength in herself. The lights overhead flickered on as evening descended outside, mirroring the duality she felt inside. Hope, tempered by the looming storm. She leaned back, eyes narrowing with determination, mapping out every possible scenario and counterattack in her mind. The fight wasn't just for her father's legacy. It was about defining her own. With a new focus, she opened her laptop to research her company's code of conduct, methodically drafting her points against Charles's practices. What lay ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear. Lily was ready to face whatever came next. The impending battle for integrity would require every bit of her resolve, and the steps she took now would determine the outcome. As she drafted plans, a gnawing question began to surface within her. Who else had known about Charles's indiscretions? And were there others like him, willing to fight dirty to keep their secrets buried? An unsettling thought washed over her. What if she wasn't the only one who had been silenced for the greater good? With sharper focus than before, the mission crystallized in her mind. Expose the truth. Harness her newfound strength and reclaim her story, no matter the personal cost. The tension in the air thickened once more at the thought of what was to come. The time had come to uncover the hidden truths, both in the company and in herself. Lily's laptop hummed quietly, the glow of the screen illuminating her resolute face as she dove deeply into the company's code of conduct. The words on the page blurred momentarily as her thoughts ricocheted between worry and determination. What would she uncover? Was the ethical framework truly as sound as it appeared? Or were there cracks beneath the polished surface? With each policy she read, she felt a flicker of empowerment. This was not just about confronting Charles. It was about grasping the very essence of what her professional landscape should represent. Transparency, accountability, integrity. She scribbled notes, creating a side-by-side comparison of what was promised in the policy documents against her observations of Charles's ethical violations. The urgency intensified. The office, emptying as the day wound down, felt charged with potential, an unspoken tension coiling in the air. The shadows deepened around her, echoing the murky undercurrents of the corporate world she now found herself entrenched in. Unexpected allies and enemies. Her mentor's warning echoed in her mind. Who could she trust? The thought of betrayal pricked at her resolve. She had seen the glances exchanged during meetings, the veiled laughter behind closed doors, and now she wondered how many were complicit in Charles's machinations. As the minutes rolled on, she decided to dig deeper. If there were adversaries, there must also be allies who shared her convictions. Lily recalled the names of a few colleagues who had shown integrity in small moments over the years. Whispers of discontent with the status quo. Perhaps they were ready to band together. Her fingers moved deftly as she composed an email, tentative but direct, reaching out to them. I would like to discuss some serious concerns regarding our work environment. If you're open to listening, please meet me tomorrow at lunch. Sending it was a leap, a signal that she was ready to gather her strength in numbers. Lily leaned back, allowing herself a moment of reflection. Just yesterday, she had been a girl concealed in a cloak of hesitation, the weight of familial expectations shrouding her potential. Now she was choosing to act, stepping into the arena without the safeguard of ignorance. There was a knock at her door, breaking her thoughts and sending her heart skittering. It was Michelle, her office mate. Michelle had a reputation for her keen insights, and had a knack for cutting through pretenses. "Got a minute?" she asked, the hint of concern evident in her expression. "Always," Lily replied, inviting her in and closing her laptop slightly, as if the contents might betray her burgeoning plans. The two exchanged pleasantries, but the undercurrent was thick. "I heard about the meeting," Michelle started, her voice low. "Rumors are swirling about Charles. Are you okay?" The concern wasn't misplaced. People had fallen from grace before due to similar allegations. But for every reflection of fear, Lily felt the ember of conviction heat her resolve. "I'm more than okay," she replied, meeting Michelle's gaze with sincerity. "I'm ready to stand up for what's right, but I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" The silence hung for a deliberate moment, and then Michelle nodded, a blend of respect and cautious agreement in her eyes. "Count me in." With this moment of solidarity, Lily felt a rush of energy surge through her. A team could amplify her efforts, and together they could generate ripples of change. But the path ahead was fraught with potential danger. Truths could shatter the fragile alliances they had just begun to forge. The clock ticked, each second intensifying her heartbeat. How far would they go to protect their truths? How far would Charles go to protect himself? She realized stepping into the light could also cast shadows. She needed to remain vigilant. As they wrapped up their conversation, Lily knew the next step lay not just within her, but among those who were willing to create change. Allies would bring both strength and vulnerability. The interactions would require fine-tuning her diplomatic instincts. She bid Michelle farewell, her heart pounding with the weight of what was ahead. Uncertainty loomed yet again, pulling at her strategic thoughts. The day had morphed into night, and with each flicker of the overhead lights brightening her space, a chilling thought crept into her mind. Would the truth she unearthed bolster her stance, or would they expose her to a far greater risk than she anticipated? Determined and anxious, she resolved to dig deeper, one day at a time, to gather the evidence needed for the battle to come. Tomorrow would be pivotal. The lunch meeting could shift the tide. However, as she settled into her chair once more, a paralyzing question emerged. What unbridgeable truths would rise to the surface once she began to dig? What would she discover about Charles and those who surrounded her? In the quiet of that moment, Lily steeled herself once more, for the fight ahead was going to demand everything she had. Lily woke the next morning with the remnants of a troubled sleep clinging to her. As the sun filtered through her curtains, she felt a rush of clarity attempt to push back the fog of uncertainty. Today was the day. With each passing hour, the significance of her lunch meeting with allies loomed larger, like a gathering storm. She dressed meticulously, a navy blazer and crisp white shirt, the colors echoing the professionalism she aimed to embody in the face of uncertainty. Her thoughts swirled around the potential for both vulnerability and empowerment. In her mind, every decision was a risk, but she was resolute. She was no longer simply a silent observer in Charles's web. As she stepped into the office, the familiar hum of activity juxtaposed her internal turmoil. Every conversation she overheard felt imbued with hidden meanings, the air thick with whispered alliances and unspoken fears. Would Charles's influence still loom over their work environment? Would her colleagues stand with her when lured by the comfort of compliance? Her emails had sparked intrigue. Colleagues approached with sidelong glances and hushed inquiries about the upcoming lunch. Had word spread so quickly? The weight of their expectations bore down on her shoulders. If they were to join her, they would need to commit to unearthing realities they had long relegated to the shadows. At noon, she made her way to the courtyard, heart racing as she anticipatively scanned the crowd. One by one, her chosen allies trickled in. Anna, the diligent project manager known for her sharp intuition. Derek, the quiet analyst whose skeptical nature had not gone unnoticed. And Michelle, whose agreement from the day before had lit a spark of hope. Seated at a round table, the group exchanged nervous smiles, the air thick with both camaraderie and tension. As they ordered their meals, Lily took a deep breath. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice steady, yet filled with urgency. "We all know why we're here today. Charles has skirted our ethical guidelines, and it's not just a question of policy for me. It's a matter of integrity and trust." The conversation flowed from there, each voice adding layers to the discussion. Anna voiced her concerns about the culture of silence in their workplace, fueling Lily's determination. Derek shared his observations of Charles's behaviors, painting a clearer picture of the manipulative tactics that had gone unchecked for too long. When Michelle spoke up, her words were laced with a quiet ferocity. "We can't just complain. If we're going to push back, it has to be calculated. We need a unified front, evidence, and a strategy." Those sentiments nudged a sense of responsibility into Lily's core. They weren't just talking, they were preparing for a battle, each strategy and piece of evidence meticulously linked to their cause. As they exchanged ideas, anxiety turned into action. Lily's mind raced with plans, formulating steps on how to collect documentation, approach HR, and align their individual narratives. What they discussed in that bustling courtyard was solidifying into a determined manifesto of accountability. Suddenly, she felt urgency surge within her. They were moving towards something significant. The momentum was shifting. But still, an unsettling thought nagged at her. Could their united front withstand the inevitable pushback? Were they sure they wouldn't be picked off one by one? They concluded their meeting with a palpable sense of unity, raising invisible shields against the uncertainty that lay ahead. Together they were ready to confront the shadows. Once the group dispersed, Lily returned to her desk, dreading the idea of facing Charles alone again. The ticking clock seemed louder now, its rhythm echoing her rapidly fluctuating heart rate. With every hour that crept toward the next confrontation, adrenaline buzzed through her, but she was smarter now. She had allies. She was armed with half-formed strategies and the inklings of a plan. But just as she was beginning to envision her approach for the next day, an email pinged in her inbox. A note from HR that sent cold waves of impending dread washing over her. "We need to discuss some recent allegations involving Charles. Please make time for a meeting today." Lily's breath caught in her throat. The urgency intensified. Everything was about to shift, and she was at the center of it. Would this be the confrontation she was gearing up for, or would it ignite other fires they hadn't anticipated? Steadying herself, she realized that now more than ever, every moment counted. Whatever happened next could either validate their courage or fracture their budding coalition. With determination coursing through her veins, she began to prepare for the unknown, her heart thundering as she prepared for a pivotal moment that would dictate her trajectory, and their fight for integrity. What revelations awaited her in that meeting? Would she emerge as a whistleblower or a target? With anticipation thrumming in her veins, Lily stepped into the HR office. Its walls painted in a muted gray, flecked with delicate motivational posters. She had prepared herself for this meeting, but nothing could quite brace her for the weight of the moment. The scent of polished wood and the soft hum of the air conditioning only amplified her anxiety. Today would be defining. "Thank you for coming, Lily." The HR manager, Miss Harper, greeted her with a professional smile, the welcoming tone juxtaposed against the gravity of their meeting. "We wanted to discuss some serious matters that have come to our attention." Lily nodded, pushing an errant strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm aware there are allegations involving Charles, and I believe they pertain to some unethical practices regarding project credit." Ms. Harper regarded her closely, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Yes, you've shown remarkable initiative, reaching out to others and prompting this discussion." The acknowledgement sent a ripple of warmth through her, bolstering her resolve. "I've been compiling evidence," Lily said, forcing herself to remain steady. "My father's legacy is at stake. It's not just about principles for me. It's grounded in family integrity." The weight of her father's sacrifices was palpable in her voice, fueling her determination. The HR manager nodded appreciatively, signaling for Lily to continue. "While we approach this matter carefully, I want you to know that your insights will be invaluable. If Charles has mismanaged these projects, or appropriated your father's innovations unlawfully, we will take immediate action. A sharp breath escaped Lily as she realized she was not merely a bystander. She was the catalyst. I need you to understand this isn't just a professional grievance. It's personal. I want to reclaim my father's legacy. There's strength in your conviction, Ms. Harper replied, her tone shifting to something warmer and supportive. But there may be repercussions. Are you prepared for Charles's potential retaliation? That doesn't matter, Lily asserted, her voice firm. He cannot silence me anymore. I have allies, people who share these concerns. Ms. Harper nodded slowly, analyzing her conviction. Good. Gaining support from your colleagues might shield you from backlash. Remember that change often comes with pushback, but it's imperative that we uphold ethical standards. With each exchange, Lily's confidence cemented itself within her. The discussion shifted into an exploration of strategy. They dove into how to approach the situation delicately, yet assertively, piecing together timelines, relevant documentation, and agreements from her colleagues. The pacing felt like solidifying bricks into a fortress, restructuring her narrative with each word they exchanged. The meeting wrapped up with Miss Harper pledging to convene with the legal department, inspired by Lily's fervor and the coalition she had formed. Lily departed, elated yet deeply aware that while she had taken monumental steps, the real battle was still brewing on the horizon. Later in the afternoon, she met with her newfound allies, brimming with shared enthusiasm. We push forward, she declared, excitement radiating from her as she laid out the plan. Each voice harmonized the excitement, each recounting their experiences of injustice, and reinforcing their commitment to reclaiming not only Lily's father's inventions, but their workplace integrity. This meeting of minds fortified Lily's resolve. They collectively drafted a robust report detailing discrepancies, adding personal anecdotes, and determined to share it with HR without hesitation. This newfound unity pulsated with strength, amplifying her sense of purpose like never before. As days progressed, momentum compounded as they drew closer to their goal. Lily no longer felt constrained by self-doubt or the oppressive silence that had once stifled her. She was shaping her narrative, a narrative bathed in truth, honesty, and ethical responsibility. The days turned into weeks, filled with late-night meetings and strategy sessions, compiling the evidence to build their case against Charles. Each discussion further solidified her belief that she was enacting change, not only for her father, but for her own dignity. The once overwhelming fear began to dissipate, replaced with a burgeoning confidence in her newfound identity. At long last, action was taken as HR announced a formal review into Charles's practices. With trepidation but purposeful resolve, Lily stood before her colleagues during a company-wide meeting, the hash of collective energy swirling around her as she detailed the issues they'd uncovered. When the time came, she delivered her speech, voice unwavering, backed by the power of her allies. This is about more than business. It's about recognizing contributions and ethical conduct, she declared, eyes scanning the room for support. The shift was palpable. Her determination forged a path that stirred others into action. Each applause that followed pierced through her fears, ushering her into newfound territory, a realm where her voice resonated. As they debriefed afterwards, acceptance washed over her. Today was just the beginning, she mused, acutely aware of the gravity of what they had planted. Progress and accountability for not only her father's legacy, but for a culture she believed could be reformed. In the weeks that followed, the company's fabric began to shift under the strain of transparency. A clause added into contracts, integrity protection measures cascaded into new policies. And as the tangible results unfolded, so too did new recognition of Lily's contributions. Months later, standing with a promotion in her hand, words of recognition glowing like a beacon, Lily realized she had not only reclaimed her father's innovations, but unearthed her own strength in the process. She had proven her competence and her ability to command a space that had been overshadowed for too long. As she reflected on her journey, a profound quality filled her. Solid confidence. The lingering shadows that had dulled her ambitions were not just fended off. They had transformed into sources of enlightenment. Through confronting betrayal and forging alliances, Lily had achieved not merely a professional triumph, but an authentic transformation. Her father's legacy was revived, and she emerged as a leader, molded by conviction, shaped by responsibility. Ready to tackle whatever lay ahead, Lily smiled, feeling a satisfaction that was both deserved and fulfilling. The journey had not only kindled her father's brilliance, but ignited her spirit, a confident woman ready to embrace the world ahead. Now it's your turn to become part of this movement of transformation. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss any of these exclusive emotional stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support these incredible journeys. Comment your thoughts on this transformative conclusion and any theories you have about the characters' futures. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this empowering resolution. This is the moment to show your support for the power of personal overcoming stories and the journeys we all embark upon. Don't wait even one more second to share.